Welcome to Introduction to Demo Saw Safety. This course has been designed to equip you with the knowledge and skills necessary to safely and effectively operate a demolition saw, also known as a demo saw. Throughout this training, we will cover various aspects of demo saw safety and use. By the end of this course, you should understand the essential practices required to ensure your safety and the safety of those around you when working with a demo saw.
We're going to the hospital and we're plugging an artery.
That will kill you.
I've seen them where they're stuck in people's faces, through their eyes, they lost eyes, I've seen ears come off.
That thing can bite hard.
160 different ligaments that control his face, his cheek, even his eyebrows.
These things can kill you. Quick.
At the end of this course, the learner should be able to recall when to use or not use a demo saw, as well as indicate inappropriate uses, name steps to take before using a demo saw, select the proper steps to start up a demo saw, identify actions that create an atmosphere for the safe use of a demo saw, choose actions that can be taken to safely put away a demo saw so it's ready for the next use, list care and maintenance techniques, recognize different types of saw blades and their uses, identify problems with a demo saw, recommend basic troubleshooting solutions to fix minor problems, and recognize the dangers of using or being near a running demo saw.
The saws, we have to use those all the time. Guys grab them, they want to cut a chain link, they want to cut a post, they want to cut a piece of plastic.
Concrete, asphalt, stone, brick, pavers, RCP, which is reinforced concrete pipe. The reinforcement is either steel or wire. And then we have ductile pipe, which is steel.
What would you use an abrasive blade for?
Works very well at beveling the end of the
Yep,
pipe.
so if you're taking a piece of plastic pipe and you need to, or even ductile pipe and you need to put a bevel on it so that you have that first bevel to stab in that joint, you're going to use that. Also going to use it when you use it in stone. So if you're cutting a sidewalk, a brick, a retaining wall, you're going to use that. Even though we have nicer blades now that do the same job, that's what they're for. This does state on it, ductile, cast iron. So all blades are labeled for what they're used for. Each one's constructed differently and reinforced differently for that reason.
Good morning, my name's Eric. I work for CNL Water Solutions, and today we're going to be talking about demo saw do's and don'ts and safety. So to start, we're going to talk about gas and what kind they take. You can buy the pre-mixed gas from Stihl. That's a 50-to-1 mix. And if you notice that we're wanting 93 octane, so if we go buy gas at the gas station, please buy the highest octane rating you can get. And that comes to the gas cans. We have a 5-gallon gas can here and a 2.5 here. And when we buy mix oil, it comes in a bottle that says it's good for 2.5 gallons. You will pour this entire bottle into the 2.5 gallon can and then add gas and shake so it gets good and mixed up. And that will give you 2.5 gallons of mixed gas at the 50-to-1 ratio. When fueling a saw, preferably fuel it before you start. Here we have the Stihl TS420. It's a gasoline powered saw. It takes the 50-to-1 gas mix. Preferably you fill them when they're cold so that if you spill that it's not as much of a fire hazard. Typically we buy the cans with the snorkel so it can go in the hole to fuel rather than spilling it everywhere. Replace the cap. If you did happen to spill, you might give it 5 minutes or so before you start the engine, as gas is very volatile. So to change the belt or tension the belt on a demo saw, this end of the socket will fit those nuts. We're going to break them loose. And then we're going to have to remove the starter cord. Or you can have a 13mm on a ratchet. Then the starter box will come off and out, and then this guard can come off. And then you'll be able to see the belt in there. Right now the belt's got good tension, and with a steel saw, this is a spring-loaded device that is an automatic tensioner. To release the tension, roll it back half turn counterclockwise. Now you can see how loose that belt is. You'd be able to spin that belt off the pulleys in order to change it out. You'd be looking for cracks or deterioration in the rubber to see if it would need to be changed. That belt's in good shape. This saw just came out of the shop a few weeks ago, so sitting on the shelf ready to go. Again, you can see how loose the belt is, and when you take that and cam it back over, it all just moved forward and the belt's got tension on it. And make sure that's pushed back on straight. Guard goes in place. Put the screw in, the pull starter, and to adjust that belt, we loosen these two bolts, nuts, and then we take the screwdriver into the tool, and you would turn that screw clockwise to add tension, counterclockwise to decrease tension. I didn't move it much because the belt's in pretty good shape right where it's at. Once you like the tension, then you tighten the bolts. And on this particular saw, if you had to change the belt, you'd have to loosen these two, loosen that, remove that cover, then take these two out, remove that cover to access the back pulley to put the belt on over the front pulley, reinstall the back guard first. As you can see, they overlap each other right here. The front guard stacking on top of the back guard. Once the back guard's installed, reinstall the front one, put the nuts on snug, reach in there with your fingers to feel the belt tension, and you can see and feel the belt move, just to have good tension on it, not over tight, not loose. Adjust the screw clockwise to get the desired tension, and retighten the nuts. And then when it comes time to start the engine, here we have the on, off, and start button. You pull it back to start, but you have to depress the safety lever and pull the throttle lever at the same time and move that back to the start position, and that locks the throttle in place. So you have the depress the safety, pull the throttle, and then ratchet that button back and let go of the throttle, and notice it stays in the start position. Next is we have the choke lever. That's choke off. Notice the symbols. That's medium choke, and that's full choke. Cold weather start, you're going to want full choke, and to depress the primer bulb about 3 times. Warm weather summer, it's probably half choke, and only press it twice so that we don't flood the engine. Make sure you have a firm grip on it, and then pull the cord. Shut it off, push the button up. And with like any air tool, the first thing we should do is oil it before we put air in it. This particular saw, this is a built-in oiler. So once or twice a week, depending on how much they use it, they'll have to open this up, fill it with air tool lubricant. If you do not have an oiler on it, it is fine and okay just to put into the hose, and the air will push the oil into the saw. We use a Dixon double lock coupling, and the reason we use these is because we do no longer have to have a whip check like the Chicago couplings would. And I will illustrate how that hooks. If you notice, there's 2 teeth here, 2 here, as well as here. They have these spring latches. Line up the tabs, push straight together, rotate the hoses, and the double locks will lock into place, and that cannot come apart. To disconnect, index finger and thumb, see how that lock pulls back? Now it requires you to do it on both sides and untwist, and then it'll come apart.
To start a pneumatic demo saw, you'll need to follow a few steps. First, ensure you have a proper air compressor capable of delivering the necessary air pressure and volume for the tool. Connect the air hose to the air compressor, making sure to tighten the fittings securely. Add a whip check if necessary. Then turn on the air compressor and adjust the air pressure to the recommended level for the saw. With the air compressor running, activate the saw's trigger switch, and the tool should start running. When operating a demo saw, it is crucial to prioritize safety. Start in a stable stance with your feet shoulder-width apart and firmly planted on the ground. Maintain a good grip on the saw's handle, ensuring both hands are securely positioned. Keep your arms slightly tense, but not rigid, allowing for better control and reducing the risk of strain or injury. When it comes to safety, remember to wear appropriate protective gear such as safety glasses, earplugs, a dust mask, gloves, and sturdy work boots. Always inspect the saw before use, ensuring the blade is sharp and properly mounted. Be cautious of kickbacks and make sure the blade guard is in place at all times. Lastly, avoid cutting in wet or slippery conditions and be mindful of bystanders or other obstacles nearby. Following these guidelines will help ensure your safety while using a demo saw. To ensure the equipment lasts as long as possible in good shape, take a few steps to make sure the saw is safe when it is not being used. For an air saw, wrap the air hose so no dirt gets into the hose. Safe storage of a demo saw is essential to prevent accidents and maintain its longevity. Firstly, it is crucial to store the saw in a secure and dedicated location, away from children and unauthorized individuals. The ideal storage area should be well ventilated, dry, and protect from extreme temperatures and moisture. To avoid damage, it's advisable to keep the saw in a sturdy case or cabinet that offers adequate protection against impacts and dust. Furthermore, ensure the saw is properly powered off and the blade is fully retracted before storing it. Always disconnect the power source and remove the battery if applicable. Regularly inspect and clean the saw, removing any debris or sawdust that could potentially affect its performance. By following these guidelines, you can ensure the safe storage of your demo saw and prolong its useful life. Proper care and maintenance are vital for ensuring the longevity and optimal functionality of a demo saw. Regularly inspect the saw for any signs of wear, damage, or loose parts, and promptly address any issues. Keep the saw clean by removing sawdust, debris, and residue after each use. Wipe down the exterior surfaces with a dry cloth and use a brush to clean hard-to-reach areas. Pay particular attention to the blade, ensuring it remains sharp and free from any buildup. Regularly lubricate the saw's moving parts as recommended by the manufacturer to reduce friction and enhance performance. Additionally, check the saw's safety features, such as the blade guard and safety switch, to ensure they are in good working order. Store the saw in a dry and secure location, protected from extreme temperatures and moisture. Follow the manufacturer's guidelines for routine maintenance tasks such as blade replacement and motor inspection. By adhering to these care and maintenance practices, you can maximize the lifespan of your demo saw and keep it operating at its best.
Even though you see mud and stuff all over these, if you keep the filters clean, you use good fuel. I mean, think about it. You need air, you need fuel, and you need spark. So as long as you keep your spark plugs good, they should start right away. These saws are built to start right away. Steels are good saws.
When cutting, what he's talking about too is, since your air filter is encased in this, don't submerge this into the water like you're trying to go underneath a piece of pipe, because all it's going to do is suck water into it and it's done.
And next we're going to move on to how to change the air filter. At the back of every steel saw is this black plastic cover. You'll note the 2 screws here. There's also 2 in the bottom. And we're going to have to remove the screws to get to the air filter. That filter should be changed. Pretty dirty. Primary air filter, secondary filter, primary filter, air breather housing, Next, we're going to talk about type of blades and their usage. Here we have a diamond blade, all-purpose. So pretty much this blade for our use is an all-around, all-purpose blade for just about everything we do. These are not designed to cut wood. If you're going to cut wood, get a wood saw. The next blade we have is what they call an abrasive blade. These are not all-purpose. This one says for metal cutting, all general purpose. And if you notice the little squares that are in this, those are fibers. And this type of blade is only ever meant to cut straight down as a general purpose metal blade only. Thing to watch for on these blades is if there's any chips or dings or damage in this outside radius, throw it away. That chip, that ding will cause it to be out of balance. And at 5,300 RPMs, when it's out of balance, that blade will come apart and it's very dangerous. Another thing you never do to this blade is side load it. Whether you don't use the side of the blade to grind or to do any work. Strictly straight up and down. Also, these blades do not do very well in water. The fiber absorbs the water, softens the fibers, and again, the blade will explode and come apart. Do not use in a wet situation. As with any power tool, you will need your safety gear. Gloves, safety glasses, and if you're like me that wear prescription, you will not be wearing these, you will need a face shield. When we're using these saws and we're cutting ductile iron or any kind of metal, positioning of your guard is crucial. You never want to move the guard while it's running, and most of the time about that position because the metal is going to throw the sparks in here and then they go that way. If it's too far forward like that and you're cutting metal, all the sparks land on your pant legs. And I have seen coveralls that are on fire from using that technique. Be sure we adjust the guard to capture all those sparks, which now will be thrown circular through here and out in front of you. Another thing on diamond blade safety is never allow anybody to stand on the opposite side. These segments are silver soldered to the blade, and they have and do come out sometimes, and it's basically like a speeding bullet. It will cut right through you and you'll never even know it until the blood shows. And here is a good example of where they're soldered in. The red piece is the steel blade. You can see the red corner. This is soldered along that line with silver solder, and that's how they're assembled. They're not welded. They will come and can come loose. And then that piece is airborne.
This is about a $400 blade. So all the segments right here, they're equal, they're brand new. Looking at it and inspecting it, it does not have any wear or damage to it. It looks like it's a solid blade. The next one we have here is more fatigued. You can see this blade is worn. Somebody put a directional arrow on this. This one's brand new. It has a directional arrow on it. This one, the company's gone ahead and put it here. Once you run this a couple times, that's gone. This is why the guys put it on the inside where the arbor sits and it never disappears. It's always there for you to reference. This blade was a blade that has it stamped in it, so that the manufacturer is telling you this is the direction it always goes, in the forward direction. But if you look at this blade, all of these segments don't get cut. You can see how all of those segments right there are starting to wear out to the point that they're small little razor blades, and they're going to come off of that saw at 2,000 RPM, somewhere around 160 miles per hour. If you're saw cutting and I'm cutting my pipe, I don't want to stand in front of it, because if that comes off, it's going to go forward and down and into the shield. So I'm protected by the shield of where it is. Got my feet protected, my face, everything else, but everything from here out is going that direction. So just be conscious of that. If we ever come out on a job site and we happen to see that's the blade that you guys are using, we're going to have a sit-down conversation about why we use that blade, what the choice was of using that blade, why we cut the corner of asking for a new one, or telling somebody this one's not working, or for yourself instituting it right away saying this blade won't work, I'm not going to use this blade. Okay. Here's some blades, all right? Is this blade in good condition? If you inspected it, what would you be looking for with that blade? And what type of blade is that, guys? It's an abrasive. You can see right here, this blade is missing a part of it. A couple things that's gonna do. When you're firing this blade up and this blade is spinning, it's gonna get out of balance like that. The saw is now gonna start doing this in your hand. And when you're controlling it, if you turn and somebody, all of a sudden I whack this dude and we're going to the hospital and we're plugging an artery, right? Or we catch ourselves in the legs, which Pat and I have both seen a guy do that 2 different times, okay? Also what happens is this blade will shear out like a grenade. It'll explode, and when it comes up, I've seen them where they're stuck in people's faces, through their eyes, they lost eyes, I've seen ears come off, stuff like that. So these tools are great to use, but remember, every tool that you use can kill you.
Especially the demo saw.
Right?
One of the most dangerous pieces of equipment that we use. That demo saw can hurt you so fast.
So that's an excellent photograph of what happens when a blade comes apart. You can see it hit the guy in the chin. It just tore off probably about, I don't know, maybe, I'd guesstimate about 160 different ligaments that control his face, his cheek, even his eyebrows. Everything that's in this part right here, trust me, from getting damage in the mouth, it takes a long time to heal, and then you get people lose part of their face, motor mouth, eating ability, stuff like that, okay?
So we will install a blade on this saw. This nut is loose currently. And if you note, you have these 2 tangs on here, tabs. They have to go in the tabs slot on the spindle. Most diamond blades have a direction arrow. This means it has to go on a certain way. These saws rotate counterclockwise. So make sure the arrows go in the way the rotation of the saw works. You lift it up, slide it up in there, get it on the hub or the spindle, and we're going to line those 2 tabs up with it. Now it's locked in. You can tighten your nut, and then always put a wrench on it to tighten. These saws come with a multi-purpose wrench for tightening this and changing air filters.
Troubleshooting a demo saw can be necessary when it starts exhibiting certain symptoms that hinder its performance. Common symptoms include the saw not turning on or experiencing power fluctuations, blade wobbling or not cutting smoothly, excessive vibration, unusual noises, or overheating. To find the root cause of the problem, start by checking the power source and ensuring the saw is properly plugged in. If power issues persist, inspect the power cord and switch for any damage or loose connections. For blade-related issues, ensure it is securely tightened and not worn out. Check for any debris or obstructions around the blade or inside the saw that may cause vibration or strange noises. Examine the motor and cooling system for signs of overheating or blockage. If necessary, consult the saw's user manual or contact the manufacturer for specific troubleshooting steps. What to do if any of this happens? Your pre-use inspection should have caught any issues before you started using the saw, but something could happen while using it that would cause a problem or raise a concern. If the saw is running, immediately shut it down and make sure the blade is stopped and the engine is off. If the saw blade was vibrating, wobbling, shattering, or has fragments flying off, the blade is likely worn out, damaged, or the inappropriate blade was used for the material that needs to be cut. Make sure to change the blade. Put on a blade appropriate for the material you are trying to cut, and make sure the old, worn, broken, dangerous blade is marked out of service so that nobody else will try to use it. Dispose of it properly and safely. Repairs may involve replacing a faulty part, cleaning or lubricating components, or seeking professional assistance if the issue persists or requires specialized knowledge. Safety precautions, such as disconnecting the saw from the power source before performing any troubleshooting or repairs, should always be followed. What do you do when you find the root cause? Here are some examples. If the belt is loose, tighten the belt. If the air filter is extremely dirty and debris is getting into the engine, change the air filter. If the blade is loose, tighten the blade. If the blade is worn out, damaged, or breaking into pieces, remove the blade and replace it with a newer blade and mark the old blade in a way that nobody will use it. If the blade is not designed for or capable of cutting a material, replace it with a blade appropriate for the material. If there is a large crack in the demo saw and the engine is exposed, take the demo saw to a certified mechanic. Using a demo saw can pose various risks if not approached with caution. One of the primary dangers is the potential for injuries caused by the rotating blade. To avoid accidents, it is crucial to wear appropriate personal protective equipment, PPE, such as safety goggles, ear protection, a dust mask, and sturdy gloves. Before starting any cutting operation, ensure that the work area is clear of obstructions and bystanders. Maintain a firm grip on the saw and position yourself in a stable stance. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions and safety guidelines, including using the appropriate blade for the task at hand. Avoid forcing the saw through the material being cut, as it can lead to kickbacks or loss of control. Take breaks as needed to prevent fatigue, as tiredness can impair judgment and reaction times. Regularly inspect the saw for any defects or malfunctions and discontinue use if any issues are identified. By respecting the potential dangers of a demo saw and adopting safe practices, you can minimize the risk of accidents and ensure a safer work environment.
You want to make sure that you have a good brace. You don't want to sit here. I know you see us throw it down to start the saw, but it's all over the place, right? You don't want to do that, okay? The other thing when a saw is running, you don't want to have it running because the blade and its centrifugal value sits there and starts doing the death wobble, and you get this death wobble going on, it gets uncontrollable. It's like a bike, man, when you're riding the bike and all of a sudden you get the death wobble and skateboard and boom, you just eat it. Well, this eats you, okay? So you don't start a saw and hand it to somebody in the box.
Never.
Right?
You can start a
Don't
saw
do
and
that.
warm it up, and then shut it off, stop the blade, and then hand it.
I wouldn't want you to start a saw and go, oh, here's the saw while you're running this way and your hand's right by this trigger. Nor would I want to start a saw and then hold on to it and go, here, take the saw. Right?
While you're handing it down.
Okay? Seen it done. The other thing is that, like, I don't know if you maybe I'm redundant here, when you're done with it and your saw, you've cut your pipe and you're finished, put it down and make sure it's stopped when you turn it off and you hand it out. Okay? Because like we were talking about earlier, we had an employee that we were working. He had it running like that. He was tired all day long. He's like, here. And he goes like this, right here on his leg.
He was going to lift it
Like
out.
that, and goes, oh, here, take it. And he hands the saw up and he goes, oh, man. And all of a sudden he goes, oh. And his leg's filleted open.
All that thing did was go bling. I heard it. I was standing right there. And his leg was opened up. Good thing he didn't hit an artery.
And all of a sudden he comes in and says, well, I was running the saw and I was cutting and the saw was sitting there and I was out there and I cut and I had the saw down. I was doing something to grab it and I came across, oh, and it just hit me for a second. Looked at his arm and it was like all the way down. Like you could see the tendons, ligaments. He's like, I'll be okay. I just need a Band-Aid. I'm not gonna be okay. Okay? We're tough, but we're not invincible, right?
What causes the kickback, guys? Basically, it's tension on the pipe. Like if when they were laying the pipe and they had a corner to go around and they didn't want to put bends on, they put tension on each stick to get around the corner.
So if you're in a hole and you can see that that pipe has a radial turn on it, you don't want to be standing on the side of the bow. Okay, because you're here on the bow, you're halfway through the pipe shatters, it comes flying out, it's going to want to go, oh, I'm loose, okay? So you want to stand on the inside of a bowed cut when you're doing it, because if it does pop and it shatters, it's going to go away from you, it's not going to come back and hit you.
The worst thing that happens to these guys that get hit is kickback. That's when there's tension on the pipe. Say they installed it and they purposely bent the pipe to go around a corner or something, and there's tension on the pipe. So that as you're cutting it, that pipe's gonna wanna pinch down on the blade. And the first, I've done it my damn self. I was so happy this guard was here, but I still got a broken nose. It blackened both my eyes and everything. I had a hold of it, and when it pinched, it kicked up. And it hit me right in the face. Just like that, dude. But I lucked out, the guard hit me. And that was one of the scariest, things that ever happened to me.
And it happens really quick too.
It's immediate. That's why you gotta have a good stance and be right on top of that saw at all times. Because this thing will kill you quick.
Otherwise you would have bled to death right there.
Yeah, I mean, there would be.
Yeah, we would have had to tourniquet him. He might have lost his leg if he didn't
if
lose
he
his
was
life.
lucky.
Yeah.
Right? So respect the saws. We gave you guys a photograph. You can see just one person, but there's hundreds of thousands of people. That's why more and more guards, more and more things go in place, because somebody has to be the victim for us all to learn a lesson. Don't be the guy that learns a lesson to teach us anything else new that we don't know. Okay?
The learner should be able to recall when to use or not use a demo saw, as well as indicate inappropriate uses, name steps to take before using a demo saw, select the proper steps to start up a demo saw, identify actions that create an atmosphere for the safe use of a demo saw, choose actions that can be taken to safely put away a demo saw so it's ready for the next use, list care and maintenance techniques, identify problems with the demo saw, recommend basic troubleshooting solutions to fix minor problems, and recognize the dangers of using or being near a running demo saw.